I'd like to welcome everyone to Good Shepherd Parish for our fall lecture series on Be Not Afraid, Aids to Mental and Emotional Health and Wellness. I'm Father David O'Leary, the pastor. Tonight we're very pleased to have Rita Vatcher, who's a licensed mental health counselor and a registered play therapist supervisor. She works at Kids at Heart in Natick. And tonight she's going to be speaking about resiliency. I'm thrilled to have Rita with us. And then a commercial for next week. Final presentation will be Resources for Catholic Mental Health and Wellness by Dr. Michael Murphy from Mass General Hospital. So welcome, Rita.
Thank you, Father Dave. Good evening. Hi. So, as Father Dave introduced me, I'm Rita Vatcher. I work up the street at Kids at Heart. So the topic tonight is Be Not Afraid. And I framed it in terms of resiliency, and especially with children and adolescents, and working with anxiety. But I wanted our starting point to be with Jesus. So those words, be not afraid, occur many times in the Bible, in the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament. And Jesus says these very words many times. I want to just take a moment to reflect that at the time that Jesus was talking, he spoke in Aramaic. And this was an ancient language, of course, that was very close to Hebrew and Arabic. And this is what his listeners heard. They heard Aramaic. And in that Middle Eastern language, the concept of mind, body, and spirit, they didn't exist separately. They existed as one unified unit. So unlike the way we think of mind, body, and spirit, they didn't separate them. We think of them as separate, but they didn't. And it's hard to think of that if you try to think about it, because we think, if I have a problem with my mind, I go to the psychologist or therapist or counselor. If I have a problem with my body, I go to the medical doctor or orthopedic or whatever, the cardiologist. If I'm having a spiritual dilemma, I go to my priest or my minister. We separate everything, but they didn't do that then. They didn't even think of it like that. You were just all one unit. Okay, so the reason why that happened is because the Greeks did that. They began that way of thinking. So in those days, the Greeks were responsible for intellectual thinking, education, and it was the Greek thinkers that began to conceptualize human beings as consisting of these separate parts, and that's what they did. Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, that's what they did. We have a rational mind, and we have a body, and we have a soul. So, if you were lucky enough to be educated, you had a Greek education. And so that's what Paul had. Paul was very educated, and he wrote in Greek. Many of the writers in the Bible wrote all of Jesus's words in Greek. So what we had passed down to us was everything about Jesus and his words written in Greek. It wasn't the original Aramaic, it was everything in Greek. And that lasted all the way up until, let's say, the Roman Empire, which took over the Greek. And the Roman Empire, everyone spoke and wrote in Latin. So it got translated, all that Greek got translated to Latin. And it stayed that way for a long time, through the Middle Ages, all the way up until fairly recent history. And then it got translated to English and the other language, German, French. So it never really got away from that separateness. So now we have passed down to us this separateness of how we think about things. So when Jesus says, "Be not afraid," his listeners heard him saying, "Don't be troubled in your mind, your body, or your spirit." So your whole self, right? Be totally calm. Every part of you, everything. Be calm. Don't worry, right? So what's so beautiful is what we have now, the science that we have, because we do things scientifically now. We do experiments and all of this. We actually have science now that shows how our minds and our bodies and our spirits are interconnected. They actually work together. We know that. We've proven that. So when I reflect on that, I think, wow, that's really amazing. That's so fantastic, because it's like a full circle. And I love to think about that, because isn't that how we refer to Jesus, the Alpha and the Omega, right? So it's like, oh, that's so cool. But anyway, that's just a little digression. So when we talk about not being afraid, what are we talking about? It's really that experience of anxiety, right? So in Jesus' time, there was a lot to fear. There was the Romans who would execute you as soon as look at you. We have the Jewish government who had 600 laws about purification. There were a lot of taxes to pay. There were famines, droughts, sickness, plagues, other things they had no control over. Life was not easy. It was very, very easy to be anxious. And today, we have what? We have climate change, we have COVID, we have gun violence, we have, a lot of things. You just have to look at the news. So it's kind of the same. We have a lot of things to worry about. So I just want to ask quickly, for you, what is worry? What is worry for you? For example, anyone? Take a. COVID. Yeah. Sickness, disease, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. The economy, sure. Mm-hmm. That's going right down the tube, yeah. So we have stuff to worry about. So worry, when you think about it, is what if thinking. That's what it is. When you sit and think about all the bad things that could happen in the future, you don't know if they will happen, but you think they might. So you're spending some time there. For some people, it's a lot of time. They spend a lot of time doing this as if they had some control over it, right? But, they know they don't have control, but they still will spend a lot of time thinking about, what if this? What if that? What if this happens? There's no power there, but there's still a lot of what if thinking. Okay? So, what do therapists like to say to people that have this future, what if the bad thing happens? What we like to say is we like to say, just stay in the present moment. Stay in the now. Don't think about the future. As soon as you do, stop. Put up your stop sign and say, no, I'm not going to think about that. And train yourself to think, no. So staying in the now is actually a discipline. It's a skill that you learn, that you practice. Understanding that you don't have control over those things and understanding what you do have control over is part of controlling anxiety. So, in spirituality, we take it one step further. I'll just add this. You're understanding on another level that God has power and He's got your back. So that's another level of thinking. And you're thinking, do not be afraid in the present. Why? Because God has my back. He's protecting me. So that is the thing. You're in the moment. I don't have to be afraid because God is there protecting me. He has the power. He's protecting me. Okay, so that practice of being in the moment is often called mindfulness meditation. And it's often taught as an Eastern tradition, which it is. But it is also a Christian tradition. And it is called centering meditation. It's very widely accepted in psychotherapy, and it is done with children and adolescents. We only do it like 3 to 5 minutes, like not much more than that though. But with adults, it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's longer. But you start out with just a few minutes because it's hard to do when you're starting. So this practice of being in the moment, it's practicing your mind to really just stay in the present. Tremendous for helping with anxiety. Centering meditation is what it's called in Christian tradition. We can do one now, very quickly, if you want to. So, let's start with a little body scan. Sitting straight with your spine straight, shoulders relaxed, feet planted on the floor. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable. If not, maybe just lowered. Noticing, doing a body scan, noticing the feelings in your body, where there's stress. So move your attention to your feet and notice your toes as they're in your shoes, touching the floor. And just notice any stress there, releasing that stress. Move your attention up the calves of your legs. If there's any stress there, release the stress. Move your attention up to your knees. Any stress, release it to your thighs. Relax your thighs. To your tummy. If there's any stress there, relax. And then up to your back. If you're feeling any stress in your back, relax. To your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. to your head. Relax the muscles around your head, your eyes. Rest your eyes, nose, mouth, and then down to the center of your chest, where your heart is. Just sit for a few moments in silence. Pick a sacred word connected to you. That is your centering word. It could be sacred, or peace, or Jesus. Sit in complete silence. Your mind might wander. Anytime you are aware of your mind wandering, silently speak the sacred word and return to the silence. Now bring your attention back to your breath. And your body in the chair. When you're ready, open your eyes. Any comments, thoughts, feedback? Let's keep going. It's very relaxing, and it's focusing too. It does help. Yeah, it's where you hold your stress. Yeah. Sometimes we hold it in different parts of our body. We hold our feelings. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. It's a good way to bring yourself right into the now. It's good to do this 2 times a day, I think. Especially when things start to get a little chaotic. Oh, I think I need to do my centering meditation now. So there are many places where psychology and spirituality connect at creating resiliency. One place that psychology recommends is cultivating an attitude of gratitude, as well as positivity and hope. So just saying, the Bible recommends that in many places as well. I found Philippians, for example, saying 4:6, our prayers should reflect our gratitude toward God for what He has done in our lives and what He gives to us. Our everyday words and thoughts should reflect a positive mindset of hope and joy and thankfulness towards God, our Father, for His great plan of salvation and our parts in it. Wow, that's amazing. Romans 12:12. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Let us rejoice and hold fast to positivity. Wow. Through the trials and tribulations of this world. Wow. I'm just sitting here going, this is amazing. But one thing I do want to mention is the usefulness of psychology, because many people like to reject it. They like to throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is a shame. Some theologians say we can't use psychology because psychology doesn't accept God. Why? Psychology says that it needs to be able to verify God for itself. In other words, psychology wants to be seen as a science. But I don't find that incompatible with my belief in God. I see them as two different yet compatible things. So in my spirituality, I trust in Jesus, and what he says is truth. At his trial, Pilate questions him and asks him, what's this all about? And Jesus only says, I came to testify to the truth. So I believe him. So that's all I need to do. I take his word for it. Everything he said and did, the miracles, everything, his crucifixion, and everything that has happened since, that's enough for me, right? But psychology confines itself to finding the truth through experimental methods that can be verified. It's a science. It's not claiming anything spiritual. It's not in competition with theology, but it can help us a lot with understanding human beings and the brain. So I believe a healthy, well-functioning human being, mentally and physically, can then readily accept a healthy spirituality. And the result is a human being who is in the present moment and not afraid. And that healthy human being is with God. So we are the good soil that Jesus talked about when he talked about the farmer sowing seeds. The seeds that fell on the good soil. They were able to grow and bear fruit. And that's what we want to do in our life. So I see it all fitting very well together. Any questions, thoughts, feedback? Yes?
The links that you speak of, I'm trying to remember the author, The Body Response, was it Benson?
Yes.
And others, sciences have accepted his work?
Oh, yes, many. Yep. He originally did his research at UMass, in the one in Worcester there. But he did that a while ago, and that's been replicated many times. It's more than well accepted. So meditation is taught all the time now. It's like a whole branch of psychology now. If you look in the American Psychological Association, it's a whole branch of psychology now. Yeah.
So they'll say centering, but still remove God.
Yeah, it's always, yeah, because it's a science. So, but, for me, it's not a problem because I don't see the two in competition, So they're both doing good jobs at what they do. So, and they kind of talk about the same things many times, Like in the Bible, like some of these quotes written 2,000 years ago. Wow, they're amazing, and achieve a lot of the same ends that, we achieve today with psychology, which we can prove. I mean, but they're great,
And that listing of things to be grateful for, it's a reminder of all the good God has already done in one's life.
Yes.
And it's all, I would say it's almost a circle thing that gives you more hope.
That's,
God was
mm-hmm.
there and later.
That's right.
That way, okay, but slowly through that,
Yep.
that sort of builds hope.
Yeah.
Be grateful for blessings received.
That's right. And that's resiliency, because resiliency is really starting to build now as its own branch in the American Psychological Association, trying to define what resiliency is, especially with trauma, as we know how much trauma is really out there. So it's trying to be able to come back after one has had this adversity in their life. So there's trauma, and then how do we come back from it? But it's also trying to instill it before any trauma takes place, right? So we can use it preventively, or we can use it afterwards as a trying to heal, right? So resiliency is kind of what the Bible and many of the things that Jesus has talked all about, building resiliency. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever written about it. I'm not really sure. Haven't really looked that up, but no specific terms. But resilience, the words associated with resiliency are things like hope, having the qualities of hope, positivity, and all of those things that we've said. Being able to be calm, being able to come back after adversity, and some people face trauma and they are not affected by it. So they've had it to begin with. And when we first started looking at resilience, there were some people who thought, well, is this a genetic trait? Maybe, we're not really sure. Or was this something instilled in them? We don't really know. But if so, how do we instill resilience? Maybe those people, I don't know, we have to look at it, but maybe they were loved and they were taught about God. But we absolutely know, we have lots of research to show that spirituality is an effective way to build resilience. We know that, definitely. That's always listed. There's a whole textbook about it. So, yeah.
If I may, I'm just thinking one of my favorite scripture verses is when St. Paul is talking about his problem. Scripture people say, did he have a physical handicap? Did he have some sort of spiritual problem? In 2 Corinthians 12:9, he said, 3 times I begged the Lord that this might be removed from me. And it was revealed to Paul, my grace is enough for you, for in your weakness my power reaches perfection.
Mm-hmm.
So that understanding of bringing weakness to God,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets transformed.
Yes, the transformation. I often thought that he was referring to, and I could be wrong, it's just an interpretation, that when he killed all those people before he was converted to Christianity, that after he was converted, that knowledge of killing so many people must have weighed very, very heavily on him, maybe to a trauma-like response. And if it felt that way, like it was a trauma to him, then that was very heavy on his conscience. And he must have spent a lot of time with that, overwhelming him. And even if he spent a lot of time in prayer, maybe he felt like nothing will take this away. I've still done this bad thing.
Yeah, that's the further passage that I was given an angel of Satan to keep me from getting too proud. So that understanding of whatever the weakness was. So, was that so many stonings? And was that so many deaths?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to clear one's conscience from that. So
you gave us a great example of being in the moment and going into meditation, doing body analysis and body scan. Are there any other tips or techniques to put into action having a positive attitude and thinking about hope and so forth, kind of
Yeah.
Personal kind of thing that kind of change, right? So what would be some techniques to kind of help someone along, maybe it's not that gregarious, to kind of change their perspective or their outlook?
Does anybody have any things that they use? Want to share?
I feel like the practice of gratitude has,
Mm-hmm.
it's so effective.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of shutting out anything negative, you're sort of pouring into it that way.
Yes.
So I feel like that's really helpful.
Yes. I agree with you. Starting the day, every day, just being thankful for all the good things, the blessings, everything. Yeah. Sets your mind in the right mindset, the right frame of mind, you know. Yeah, definitely.
I did have a question. I'm a psychologist myself.
Oh,
So I love this intersection that we're exploring.
yes, I love it.
Yeah. I like, that the literature says, like, if somebody has spirituality, I'm like psyched, right? Like,
Mm.
it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot of experience of working with children
Mm-hmm.
and them having faith and using that, like,
Mhm.
with them. And I didn't know if you have, speak to that.
Yeah, so sometimes I do have kids that have faith, which is so nice. Not all the time do we have that. So when it happens, I'm like, yay. And so I will try to encourage them to talk about it and to just ask like what they have for prayer rituals, what kinds of things they do, things like that. How did they think about God and things like that, so that when we do get around to talking about things that bother them, I ask them, how did they bring God into this, or how do they think of this in terms of God, and see what they think. It's really important to understand what they're thinking about it, how they're feeling about it, and if they do think about it in terms of God, or how could they think about it in terms of God if they don't. So it's really kind of exploring what they're thinking about it or how they're feeling about it. I don't ever impose it's more like, I don't impose my thoughts on it. It's more about exploring what they're thinking, how they're feeling, or maybe, just asking some exploring questions, things like that, that just gets them thinking. I might invite them to do a sand tray to express how they're feeling, or maybe draw a picture, something like that, to just express themselves. Very simple. Yeah, something like that.
What did you say that you use with them?
Drawing so they can express, or the sand tray.
Oh, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, so sometimes we have a tray just filled with some sand that's very, very fine. It's made just for play therapy. And then we have like some shelves with all little figures. And they can use the figures, they place them in the sand tray. Yeah, it's in the configuration that they choose to express something they're thinking or feeling in some dynamic way or static way to show, a thought, a feeling, or whatever. So it's really helpful, and they love it. We get a lot of work done in the sand tray. So, yeah, it's a good tool. So, and I do have all of the religious symbols, not just Christianity. I keep the Judaic symbol, Buddhist symbol, keep all of the religions, just in case, we have all the religions, because I want everyone to feel safe if they have to express whatever religion they're in. So that's important. So, anything else, or did you have any other thoughts about that intersection of psychology and?
Yeah, I was thinking about it when you did the meditation, and I came to meditation through psychology.
Yeah.
And trained in it, taught people, and I know it to be like this Eastern tradition, and that most of the researchers, that's where they went to sort of bring this to a scientific discipline. But to hear that it's also in Christianity, it just makes me wonder how much richer it could be.
Yeah.
From a Catholic perspective or a Christian perspective.
Yes.
Because I have it so, I don't want to say it's scientific, because I think it's one of the places in which psychology like departs from needing empiricism or needing to see it and measure it. But I do wonder, if they were combined, like how that would change my practice.
Yeah. So some of the people that work a lot with this is Ronald Rawl. He has a whole center of contemplative prayer, Christian contemplative prayer. Another one, oh gosh, he's got an Irish name too. Begins with an F. There's another one too. And do you know him?
I was going to say Richard Rohr, the Franciscan.
There's Richard Rohr, and then there's another one.
The fathers of centering prayer that we stood from the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Loud and unknowing.
Yeah.
Hume manager and was it a Hume manager in Pennington.
Yes.
Going back to the High Middle Ages, where the anonymous author, the Cloud of Unknowing, had just introduced centering prayer.
Yeah.
It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
It has been around, and then it got lost, and rediscovered, and lost, and rediscovered. But the strict monastic communities have always had centering prayer. So the Cistercians and the very strict communities of the Trappists and the Carmelites, they've always done it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was called mental prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are quite a few. I think it became very popular in the 70s when that transcendental meditation sort of came this way with the whole hippie thing, and it became popularized. I think that might have happened, and that way it kind of came into the there were so many things that came through psychology through that sort of hippie movement, let's try LSD and see what happens that way, and all these things they kept trying, so I think there was a lot of things that at the beginning of psychology, a lot of things got tried, and eventually some things got thrown out, thankfully, but I think they kept the meditation, which was good.
I'm so curious what your thoughts are. I have 2 boys.
Yeah.
They're 14.
Oh.
But I'm so curious because I don't see children anymore. Like what, the themes that you're seeing with COVID. Like I know these kids will be COVID kids and I don't know what that means. But I just want to be so in tune with like whatever their experience is, what's happening for them. But
Yeah.
when it comes out or if it comes out.
So everything that I'm seeing and hearing now is that after COVID, kids have gone back to school, their activities have ticked up, socializing has ticked up, going back to birthday parties, activities, sports events. And so now they're all feeling overwhelmed, is what I hear over and over again. How do I deal with this overwhelmed feeling, which is anxiety? So again, doing a lot of the anxiety coping skills with them and getting them to think about, you know, what am I anxious about? You know, what are my resiliencies? What am I good at? You know, and CBT, you know, let's use our rational thinking. And, you know, let's look at all these, you know, I've done this before, this before, this before. I did great. I had fun. Da, da, da. So I can do it. So why is it different this time? You know, because I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's like I've never been to a birthday party before, but you have. You've been to lots of them, and you've done really great. Why is this one different? I don't know. Well, you know. So, yeah, it's a lot of anxiety because it's like they're not used to it. Oh.
Yeah, reentry's tough. I get it too.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, a lot of stuff like that. We just take one step at a time and help them understand they can do it. This is all par for the course. You've got this. You are resilient, you know, all that stuff. Just going through all these things. Yeah. The kids are great. They really are. And if you stay positive with them, help them to see how great they are and what greatnesses they have, really help them to see it. They come around pretty fast. And they do. They get it. And then I'll spend time with the parents too and help them to just accent the positive, you know, keep, you know, pointing out the good stuff. And, you know, once you keep doing that all the time, forget about the negative stuff. Just forget about it. Just keep pointing out the good stuff. They'll come around, and they do. And the parents are like, this is great, you know. It's a whole different way of, it's turning it all on its head, turning it all upside down. Only look at the positive. So.
Yeah, I feel like the resilience work taught us that, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, look at people that are being traumatized. They have strengths. Maybe we should look at strengths.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Because we are strong, you know. You just have to learn to look at that. Yeah.
I love that. I love being able
Yeah.
to bring that into the work.
Yeah. Because, you know, when you think about the generation that I grew up in, or that we grew up in, gosh, all the stuff we've been through, I must have been pretty resilient. But yeah, nobody ever said it, but I wish they did. I wish they said, good for you. Yeah. Right? I mean, if people were pointing it out, I would have felt great and gotten through it. As it, you know, as it worked out, I just got through it, but it would have been nice to feel great about it too. So, anyway, that's that. So,
You say about anxiety, fear, transfer within a family?
yes, definitely. Oh, definitely. Well, sure, if mom is always saying, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if you do that? Then the kids are going to be like, what if this, what if that? You know, you can't be modeling for your children that kind of what if mentality. You have to be thinking in the now, be very practical every time you say what if. Right? It's got to be very, there has to be a good rational basis every time you say it, right? Within the realm of possibility. Like every time you walk out the door does not mean you're going to get hit by a car, right? If you walk down that street over there, yes, you might get hit by a car. But you know what I mean? You have to be really practical and rational about every time you say what if to your child. And really, for the most part, don't worry about anything, you know, but just don't walk down that busy street over there because something could happen there. That kind of thing. So, yeah. Okay, so, but yes, it's very transferable. Yeah, I mean, some people, but you know, some people can be very edgy. I mean, they're just built that way, physiologically, right? They're very edgy, and you know, and that's a model. So if you feel like your child is now, you know, becoming that way, you want to take a good look at everything that's going on. What you're modeling, do they have this now? You know, it's not like a blame thing. It's just more like an understanding and how do we approach this and something like that. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for listening.
I'd like to thank Rita for that great understanding of resiliency.
Okay.
I'm thinking of Arts Generation. We used to play with mercury from a broken bottle.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Those spinning things on the playground,
Yeah, metal swings.
you know.
Yeah. Jungle bars across concrete. We survived.
Yeah. Good for us. Yay.
To pass on positivity and put it into a spiritual sense, I think of all the liturgy of the hours. How does it begin? Oh God, come to my assistance. Oh Lord, make haste to help me. Oh Lord, open my lips and my emotion to declare your praise.
Yeah.
And it's just ritual in the liturgy of the hours that it's a reminder that we bring praise to God and gratitude.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay.
So next week we'll have Dr. Murphy on resources for Catholic mental health and wellness. The next week will be at St. Zephyr's Church in North in the Center. So thanks for coming out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yay.